So for the assignment, I decided to do it alone. So I'll be simulating being the employee as well as the manager. I think for this situation, I can give it in a time where I had those scenarios, and then as the manager role, I can think of ways that I could have adapted better, but that way it'll be like a double party system within the video. So, how can limited time impact the workplace? Can you think of an example of when you've been in this situation? Did you read and adapt to the situation well? How could you have read and adapted to it better? Can you anticipate being in this situation again in the future? When is that likely to happen? What options will you have and how will you adapt? So, having limited time in the workplace is definitely something that happens to a lot of people, especially employees, in a fast paced environment. In my current role as a Strayer University admissions officer, I do feel the limited time to get through everything out of the day. I think the best way to go about this is to just get what you can done during the day. If you don't get it done, make a to-do list for tomorrow, hit those tasks first, and then kind of move forward with your time. Um, and so now being the manager, so I think that is a great way to do it. Having a to-do list and having that way to start off your next day on a positive note, and not get yourself stressed out because there only is a certain time in the day, and having those time management skills of being able to make a to-do list, get through the list, and then still be able to make it through the next list of the day is super important. There is only, a certain amount of time during the workday to be successful, as well as having the time to do everything. So I think having those lists is something that's super beneficial for you, and I'm glad that you have learned from it and that you're taking it to do the next task in the future. Okay, so next question. How can too much work impact the workplace? Can you think of an example of when you have been in this situation? Did you read and adapt to the situation well? How could you have read and adapted to it better? Can you anticipate being in this situation again in the future? When is that likely to happen? What options will you have and how will you adapt? So too much work in the workplace is something that I personally feel a lot. I do get overwhelmed with the amount of leads we have to hit, the amount of people we need to reach out to, and we have a call ratio that we need to hit as well as having the certain amount of enrollments for each quarter. So I can feel that need of, feeling stressed and having too much work. I think the best way to handle it is to plan out each of your days. So about an hour before my workday ends, I plan my next day. So that way when I'm coming into work the following day, that I have exactly what I need to do. Hit those things first, and that way I'm staying very organized with my time. I'm not wasting any time. I'm not fiddling around like, what should I do? I have everything ready to go, so that way I can take advantage of all the time that I have in the workplace. Even if I do have a lot of work, I'm still feeling successful and still being able to handle it. As the manager, I think that is absolutely great. I think having those lists and having those time management skills is super key to being successful in a workplace that does have a lot of work and a lot of high influx of leads, people to reach out to, and people to just speak with, especially as being an admissions officer in your role. I think it's great that you have learned from, feeling overwhelmed and having too much work, and now you're taking advantage of your time in a positive way. The thing that I could say that could possibly help you out in the future is that you are on a team. So if you are feeling overwhelmed, reach out to your manager. Let them know. They can turn your leads off. They can, help you out. And then you also have your teammates to help you as well. And everyone's willing to help out each other. That is what the team aspect is for. Okay, next question. How can other people not doing their part impact the workplace? Can you think of an example when you have been in this situation? Did you read and adapt the situation well? How could you have read and adapted to it better? Can you anticipate being in this situation again in the future? When is this likely to happen? What options will you have? How will you adapt? So this is definitely something that is, prominent in any role, in any workplace. There are going to be days when people are down or it's just too busy and it doesn't feel like people are doing their part when they really are. So at Strayer University, we have our admissions officer, admission coordinators, coaches, deans, and basically it does go through a cycle. If something is low or it doesn't feel like someone's doing their part, it can take a lot longer in the process. of getting a student enrolled. So the admissions officer basically takes that student, gets them through the admissions process, through the enrollment, passes it along to the ACs to get them admitted and matriculated into school and into their program. From there, the admissions officer passes it off to the deans. The deans then speak to the student, place them into classes. From there, once the student is placed and temped into their classes, then they get placed into with Midwest, which is the coaches. Basically what they're doing is they're working with the method of payment, and then they're finalizing the student into school. So if there is a kink in that cycle, if a gear is out of place, it does feel like it takes a long time. I think what you can learn from it, now I'm the manager, is basically having just the patience. Everyone is doing their job in their workplace, and if you feel like you're not, feel free to reach out to me. I'm in a higher position where I can take that step and say something. I don't want there to be any tension between, environments or anything like that. But I can definitely have a one-on-one conversation with our upper management about how this cycle is going. So I think that is something that is super important to just remember. Just always staying calm, staying patient, and then if it does get to the point where it is bothering you to the point where you need to speak to me, let's talk about it and let's get through it together. So next question, how can conflict between employees impact the workplace? Can you think of an example when you've been in this situation? Did you read and adapt to the situation well? How could you have read and adapted to it better? Can you anticipate being in this situation again in the future? And when is this likely to happen? What options will you have and how will you adapt? So I have been in situations where there have been conflict between employees, not between myself, but between others, and it's very apparent that it does cause conflict within the team and within the workplace. I'm not really sure what I can do to stop that, except just separate myself from it, so that way I'm not involved. I don't really enjoy being in drama. I would like to know how I could, be a better impact on it, or maybe have some type of resolution. So me being the manager, definitely there are ways that you can be a part of it in a positive way. Definitely having team sit downs, and me being a manager, I can have a sit down with the two employees one-on-one, and then both of them together, just to figure out what the conflict is stemming from, where it has started, how it has grown, and why is it hitting this climax. Hopefully from there we can have some sort of resolution, so that way it's not affecting the whole team. If it's starting to affect the whole team, then it becomes a team problem rather than just a two-person problem, or however many people are in the conflict. But definitely addressing it right up front is very important. You don't want it to settle and have it become a daily issue or a weekly issue or anything like that. It needs to be nipped in the butt immediately, because this is a team and this is a friendly work environment, and that's what we're wanting to withhold with our culture. So definitely getting right down to the core of the problem, and then having some resolution to fix it would be the best way to resolve the whole issue.